Okay, so I'll dive straight in. The, there are many things here which correspond almost precisely to what David has been telling us about research opportunities with the MRes. The PhD is really a deeper, longer engagement. Um, and it's a specialist independent study of a research theme. This is a major piece of work that we host in a range of areas. And I'm going to talk you through some of the issues that are relevant for applying or thinking about applying to study at NCAD. The PhD is most commonly thought of as an original contribution to knowledge. Sometimes we see that described as an original and scholarly contribution to knowledge. And so we have to think about what that might mean. There might be a gap in knowledge that we're going to try and find out something we don't know. It may be a matter of innovation, testing new techniques, finding new applications and methods. It might be about challenging existing knowledge, revising existing bodies of knowledge. Or it may be, and this is often very appropriate to work done at NCAD, about bringing new disciplinary knowledge to a field of practice, integrating art and design in some way, connecting technology and art practice, thinking about sociology or ecology in relation to different forms of design or art or visual culture or education. So an original contribution to knowledge. And this is the highest academic qualification. So ambition is needed to make a clear claim on the significance of your work. So this is something which obviously is demanding, but the opportunity is significant. There are two types of uh, PhD work offered and supported at NCAD. The first of these, most familiar to people, is a PhD by thesis, piece of original research presented as a thesis of between 80 to 100,000 words. By practice will be a body of creative practice plus a smaller thesis of around 40,000 words. By practice has a lot of meanings here. This might mean that you're a filmmaker or a curator or even a creative writer, or you might be working in medical design, or you could be working in sculpture. There are lots of ways in which we can understand by practice here. But essentially, it's about producing a substantial body of creative practice and accompanying that with uh, deep and serious critical reflection that contextualize the work in your field. At NCAD, as David has indicated, we are now trying to offer research training opportunities through taught modules, and PhD students are able to take 30 credits of taught study during the first 2 years of research, of full-time research. Now, this can mean that you can connect with existing master's programs and modules that are there, but it more importantly, in some ways, is about gaining particular kinds of experience and developing transferable skills, whether that's research skills or, um, you know, learning to do with research ethics or about event organization or about public presentation. These kinds of skills that might then be useful in other contexts beyond the work of your PhD. At NCAD, projects are supported by supervisory teams. So you may make contact with one potential supervisor initially, but as your project begins, we set up a team um, of supervisors. So there's always more than one point of contact. And often students will benefit from multidisciplinary perspectives. Sometimes we'll have people from visual culture, fine art, or design working together on projects which helps to benefit the student enormously. Thinking about resources, we'll work with you to um, find out what exactly you would need to develop a project. Is that access to particular kinds of data or technology or archives? What will you need to undertake your research? And in thinking about that, we're also thinking then about, is NCAD the right place for your project? It might be a great project, but NCAD might not be the perfect place in this instance to support that. So often we'll have that conversation with you in order to guide you towards where would be most suited, whether it's NCAD, whether it's a particular department or school in NCAD, or whether it's elsewhere. We'll think too about whether NCAD can support this proposed work based on the types of resources and so on that you might need. So there's plenty to talk about with regard to what is needed for the project to succeed. In thinking about potential study at NCAD, I want to emphasize again that there are 4 schools in the college that support a wide range of research. So the School of Design, Education, Fine Art, Visual Culture. And projects will often involve supervision from more than one school or department. There's an image here from an exhibition at the Royal Hibernian Academy by PhD researcher Fiona Kelly. And this is a project in which staff members from visual culture and fine art come together. And we're thinking here about sculpture and photography being used to investigate rural wastelands and abandoned spaces of extractive industry. Really interesting, rich project, which has a strong ecological focus, but also takes seriously the histories and methods of photography and sculpture in different ways. Scholarship will be combined with experimentation in projects that run across visual culture or design or fine art or education. We look at ways in which people might immerse themselves deeply in critical discourses, but also apply new and innovative methods to the exploration of these. So we have a couple of images here from a PhD researcher called Bláithín McDonnell, who is exploring approaches to the voice and narrative in performance arts. So her work involves performance, but also creative writing, which has a strong critical dimension. And she'll take the lecture or the sort of storytelling gathering as combined forms for the exploration of her ideas. PhD projects can often involve collaborations between institutions, between academic institutions, but also with public institutions such as museums. Researcher Donna Rose, for instance, has been involved in collecting, interpreting, and mediating the material heritage of Ireland's institutional systems. So this is a joint registration with UCD, funded by the IRC Enterprise Doctoral Awards Scheme, and in partnership with the National Museum of Ireland. Donna's work has also led her into the writing of policy documents, and in that regard we can see that research practice has taken her, allowing her to go in different kinds of critical and professional directions. So in terms of a timeline, a quick note on the fact that the minimum period of registration is 3 years full time. We would think maximum realistically 4 years full time. Part-time equivalent obviously is longer in each case. And we need to be sure, or you need to be sure that you're ready to begin. So applicants must demonstrate they have the key skills to undertake the research or a sense of how to acquire those skills. And usually a PhD student is going to have a master's in a related field. We'll take account too of relevant professional experience. This is all about essentially knowing that you have some grasp of the key issues in a field of inquiry or a field of practice. So we encourage you to get in touch, to make contact before formally applying so we can begin a conversation. It allows us to understand what you're trying to take on, but also crucially to establish whether we have the right expertise to support you. And sometimes, you'll have to be patient with us because this can take a little while to try to put together teams of people who might be able to supervise your project and who might have time and interest to take that on. As you prepare your work, as you begin to propose what you might do, think about these sorts of questions. What is my research field or my research question? Essentially, what area of study am I interested in and what do I need to know? So you want to be thinking about what the state of thinking or research in that chosen field is. What's my approach to research going to be? Am I going to be looking at specific archives, or am I going to be developing a particular body of paintings using a very specific method in relation to the medium of paint? Then also, what sources will be required? Do I have access to them? What makes this PhD possible, and what obstacles might be in the way? It's important to note too, just as I begin to wrap up, that we offer a fee waiver scholarship. So the deadline for that is May 31st. So if you're going to be applying for that scholarship, we'd really want to be beginning conversations with you soon, or continuing conversations you'd already be in with us about how to resolve your proposal as something that we think is viable. We'll have a funding workshop in relation to the Irish Research Council funding scheme, and that will be in the early autumn, date to be confirmed, but keep an eye on NCAD's social media for information about that. Last year we had a great turnout at that online, and my colleague Ali Distolfo is the leader on that particular workshop and is an amazing help. So you can contact me as head of doctoral studies, details there, or you can contact the various members of staff who deal with postgraduate inquiries and admissions, details here, but details also on the website.